All right, yo, what's going on? Sorry for the delay, everybody. I think it's finally working now. Sorry for the technical delays. I don't know what's going on. I had OBS, which is the streaming software that I'm using, connected to the YouTube live stream. And for some reason, the two things just weren't talking to each other like they normally do. I had to kind of like reconfigure all of my settings and login information. So I'm here. Hopefully you guys can see me, and it is 3:09. Thank you so much for your patience. You guys have waited much longer than I would have. I appreciate that very much. But I do want to say thanks for being here. And how are you guys doing today? It looks like you guys had pretty good conversation going in the chat there. I've been kind of watching it too as I was trying to just wait for things to kind of happen. But J. Mike Remy saying he's on his way with tech support. I appreciate that. You know, it's like, I do kind of tech support, not tech support, but kind of tech support for the lawyers that I work with. And a frequent thing that I get is, oh, now that you've come here, finally it just started working automatically. So J. Mike Remy, I'm thinking your thoughts of thinking that you were going to come to Iowa to help out was enough to get everything to work. So I appreciate that very much. Eric Rapella says, happy Saturday. What's going on, everybody? Berkeley says, I have a t-shirt. Yes, I have a PhD in computer science, and no, I won't fix your computer. That's super funny. Yeah, because I bet you get that question all the time. Recycle on Wednesdays says, yay, it's working. Awesome. Berkeley guest let me know it's working too. Very cool. You guys were talking a lot about Strava and the Run Club. Let's take a look at the Run Club real quick because I think we can do that now. So let's do that. There we go. So here is the Run Club. Let's refresh it real quick. But I'm just going to take a look at it. We've got a lot of people in there. A lot of people have been posting messages and stuff. And I thought we would just, I don't know if they'll do this like on a weekly basis or what, just go over like who the leaderboards are. I'm in 12th, which, I mean, I know I'm not the highest mileage runner, but I thought I'd be pretty high. But like, man, Shenanimous is up here. Look at that. She got 71.5 miles so far on the week. Look at this. Asif, man, 151 miles. Who had a lot of miles last week? It was someone crazy. Man, these leaderboards keep, like the last week's leaders. No, these shouldn't be changing, but it seems like they're changing. But we got a lot of people running a lot of miles and getting a lot of vert. Look at this, man. Shenanimous, 3,000 feet in 1 week. That's a lot, man. People are getting after it. Ethan, good work. And so I've been also trying to keep an eye on posts and see what you guys are posting in there. I probably won't I'm kind of like spamming everyone and trying to respond to everyone's messages that are in there. It's going to take me a little bit of time, at least in the beginning. But then I'm hoping it grows a little bit more organically and becomes a place where we're all talking to each other rather than me like going top down. I want it to be like horizontal flat where everyone is just talking to each other. So, but I want to make sure I'm encouraging people to kind of have conversations in there and cultivate that. And then I think this is probably what I'm going to spend most of my time looking at from now on. I mean, I know I've got my regular like feed that I have in Strava, and that Strava feed is mostly like Chicago runners or people that I know. But this will be a good way to keep track of kind of everyone else that's in here too. Especially all those people that are at the top of the leaderboard, because they should be posting. I would anticipate that they're also in here a lot, but it'll be cool to kind of see where you guys are running. So if you guys don't want everyone to see where you're running, make sure your privacy settings are up to date. But it's been real cool to kind of see what's going on in the Strava Run Club. I was amazed by how many people were in there so quickly. I appreciate that, guys. I love the support, feeling it. Thomas Gallardo very patiently waiting for me, saying he has a lot of time to wait due to quarantine in Chile. That's funny. I hope you're doing okay down there. The little bit of COVID news that does seem to be still percolating through in the U.S. is that in South America there is a lot of spread happening over there. So I hope you're okay. Ines Dunbar, I saw pictures of your dog in there, Ines. A beautiful dog. Great running partner to have. It says the Strava Run Club is going well. It looks like it. It's cool. I think it's going to be a fun place to be. Jody Run says, don't tech support, just tell you, turn it off and on again, it should work. Yeah, you know what? I'll I did all of that. I turned off OBS. I turned off the YouTube browser, turned them back on again. And then what worked was basically kind of a variant of that was like there's a streaming key that like YouTube gives you to enter into your streaming software. And so I just had to re-enter it again. And for whatever reason, then it worked. So I don't know. So basically the solution was a slight variant on the idea of, turn it back on and off again. My favorite thing to tell people is like take the cartridge out and blow on it. And then it's funny to see like who gets the reference and who doesn't. And it's kind of a hard reference to use in a professional setting too, because it could definitely take on like a little bit of a ribald meaning. But yeah, it's funny. That's what I like to do. And then the one thing that I used to have to do to my Nintendo cartridges all the time, and I don't know if anyone else had to do this, because everyone knows kind of like you went and you blew on it, and then you put the cartridge in, and that got it to work a lot of times. But I also had a thing where I would put the cartridge into the Nintendo just enough so that way I could close it. But as I closed it, there would be a lot of friction. So it was basically as far or not as like jammed into the machine as possible. I don't know if anyone else did that. And I found that if I did that in combination with blowing on the cartridge, that would make the Nintendo games work the best. But man, I had a lot of times when I would just be mad and like yelling at the Nintendo because it wouldn't work. What is this? And by the way, my mom is in here. Hi, Mom. How are you? Let's see. Oh, Asif. Bert Lagas is saying that's why Asif is running a marathon a day for the people working in healthcare. That's why he has so many miles. Whoa, a marathon a day? 100 marathons in 100 days? What? I can't even imagine that. That is, wow. That's incredible. I have to look into that further. That's amazing. Very, very cool. Very cool. Thanks for the explanation, guys. Andrew Peter says, some huge miles in the run club. About to go on my Sunday long run here in Australia at 6 a.m. Well, I hope you have a good run out there. Rodolfo Montalvo says, where'd it go? It just like kind of did that one of those flicks on me. Okay, Rodolfo Montalvo says, hi, your last videos have been awesome. Well, thanks so much for watching. I have been having just so much fun running here in the bluffs of eastern Iowa, and it's been I think it's been really good for me in a lot of ways. So I've been really enjoying the time here. Kevin Ankrum says, hello, everyone. Really enjoying the Run Club on Strava thus far. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, Cody Davis says, I know you like the GoPro, but I've been enjoying the 360 video the past week. Yeah, you know what's funny is I don't use the 360 camera that much because it just takes a lot longer to use. It makes the videos take twice as long to make, basically. And so I do it somewhat sparingly. And every time I do, there's like a new crop of subscribers, which is great, that come and they'll see this 360 video and they haven't seen my other 360 videos before. And they'll be like, what is this? I hate this. This is making me sick. This makes me like motion sick. I'm getting a headache just looking at it. And I'm like, I have to like do the, it's like a Groundhog Day kind of thing where you just have to apologize. I'm sorry, all the videos aren't like this, but it's an interesting tool that I like to use every once in a while for artistic effect. But some people, like every time I make a video with the 360 camera, there's always a couple of comments like that. And I understand what they're saying. They're not wrong. It can be very disorienting, but that's kind of part of the point of it for me. But yeah, everyone has different preferences. Ines Dunbar says, Pip says, thanks. Pip's his dog. I've always like really wanted to have a dog that I could run with, but then when we got a dog, I ended up with a French Bulldog mix, and that guy, he does not really like to run. We had him out in the backyard yesterday after dinner when me and the girls were all playing, kicking a soccer ball around. And he was just, I had him on a leash because I can't really trust him off a leash, and we're by a busy road. And so I have him like kind of on the leash, and he'll chase after the ball and run around, and he won't really bark, but he was barking a little bit at it because he was excited. And then after a couple of minutes, like his entire, and maybe it's because he's a little bit older and he has a little bit of a bad back already, but like after a couple of minutes, his entire body was just like trembling. I just think from so much effort and excitement. And I'm like, man, this dog's been an apartment dog his entire life. the most he'll ever walk is like 2 to maybe 4 blocks on a very long walk. And he usually likes to kind of go outside, do his business. Sometimes if it's just rained or if the weather's changed and he can smell a lot of things, he doesn't have the greatest sense of smell. But if he could smell a lot of things, he might feel a little bit more adventurous. But mostly he's like an out and in kind of guy. Just goes outside, pees, poops, and then he'll direct me to go back in. And so it's been an adjustment for him too, but he's definitely not a running dog. I'm very jealous of people that have running dogs. Laura V says, I saw you doing your 50K recovery run in the ultras. How long did it take you to get used to them, and how often do you run in them? Yeah, for me, it didn't take me that long to get used to them. Like my first run in them, I thought that they were great. They felt different because the Ultra Ego foam is, I think, pretty special. It's interesting stuff. I really like it. And that was the part that was most different for me. And then the zero drop, which I just didn't notice that much. Maybe I'm just not that sensitive to the drop. But it didn't seem like a huge transition to me. I know lots of people have more problems with it. But, and I transitioned to them on a flat surface where I think, in Chicago where there's no uphill or downhill or hardly any. And so it was a relatively smooth transition for me, I felt like. So I didn't have too much of an issue with it, but I know a lot of people do. And I think I've been running with them maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes a couple days in a row, sometimes like every other day. But I haven't really had like a transition plan to it. Now, I think that if historically I had issues going from like a 10 millimeter shoe to like a 4 millimeter shoe, and I felt like the drop was bothering me, then I might ease into it a little bit more, trying to give it like every other day in the beginning and then kind of working my way up to it. But for me, I was able to kind of dive right in and feel pretty good. The first couple of runs, I do remember like the following morning, like my calves being a little bit tighter, tight for no reason. And I was like, oh, that's because of the difference in the shoes. So that was it. Yeah, Thomas Guerrero says, doing okay here. Thanks for the concern. And he says, hey, Kofuzi, how are you liking the AirPods Pro in warmer weather? So you guys have noticed, well, at least Thomas has noticed, I'm sure a lot of you noticed that I've switched from the Dropper Elite 75T and I've been running in the AirPods Pro a lot lately. And the main reason for that is I think I killed the Jabra Elite 75T. I didn't bring them with me to Iowa. Because what I noticed over the past several weeks is that like the buttons work. So the Bluetooth connection is fine, but the volume on the right-hand side one was really, really low. And so either it just needs a very thorough cleaning, like, maybe just it got all gunky in there, or enough sweat has gotten in there to the point that like it has fried some of the components. So like the right side, I was getting very low volume on it. So that was starting to get frustrating. So I just switched to the AirPods Pro, and it was a lot cooler then. And now it's starting to warm up, and so I haven't any issues with it yet. I've been running in nothing terribly hot because I'm still running in the morning, a little bit later than I've been, but still later in the morning, still in the morning. And so it's only been in like the 70s, so very balmy weather here still. And it's getting to the point where if it gets any hotter, I think I'm going to have some problems with the earbuds falling out. So I also brought the AirPods, the Powerbeats Pro with me, so because it has the over-ear loop. So on the longer runs where it's been a little bit hotter, then I brought those with me so that they don't fall out. I will do more testing on the AirPods Pro. I ran in them today. But to see like at what temperature do they start falling out. But like already they're even at balmy temperatures for a longer run, a little bit like on some of the harder efforts, like at the hills. I was starting to feel like they weren't starting to slip, but I was like, this is the beginning of what it feels like when they're about to start slipping. So that's kind of, I'm a heavy sweater, so I don't really, I fault the earbuds for it. I think it's just how my body responds and treats those kinds of things. Yeah, let's see. Elan Gallego says, hey Kofuzi, random question. Are you a back sleeper, side sleeper, or stomach sleeper? After a long run, I notice my legs feel better the next morning when I sleep on my stomach. Oh, I've never tried that, but I am a back sleeper. I used to be a stomach sleeper. I would sleep kind of like with my hands underneath the pillow and like sleep like this, most of the time. And then at some point, I became like a very still, or at least I thought it was a very still on the back sleeper. I remember like right after college, I noticed that like in the wintertime, for example, like, and I lived in a really crappy apartment. Like I could feel the cold air coming over the bed, like as I was laying down because it was so drafty. And I had several layers of blankets, and maybe it was just the weight of the blankets. But I remember going to bed and then waking up and like seeing like the bed, the sheets were like completely unruffled. So it's like basically there was just like the lump where my body was, and so I wouldn't move at all. So at some point, like in college, after college, I think is when I switched. But I've never noticed that my legs feel different. I mean, it makes sense that it could be some differences. Um, yeah. J. Mike Remy says, give Camus another shot while you're out there. It's been really fun going on adventures in unfamiliar areas. Just have to trust it. Yeah. So I will have to. I'm out of my normal like home territory, so I had set up a whole bunch of routes, and I couldn't figure out why they weren't like syncing to my watch. Not that I really needed it out here. It's the directions like for my runs out here are like run 4 miles and make a left. And it's hard to get it wrong because there's only one street every like several miles. So it's even I can't get lost out here. But I've been thinking I do make the routes anyway, just so I know about how long it is, and it tells you what the elevation profile is going to be, which I think is useful. You can also get that information in Google if you do it on Google Maps as well. But Commute is a little bit easier to work with sometimes in areas like this where there aren't too many like side streets and stuff. It's really easy to use. And so I don't have to buy one because Polar sent me an activation code so I can get different regions, but normally I have to pay for the other regions. But I have to just activate it so that way I can start integrating them on my watch as I'm using them here. But I would like to use that a lot more so I can have those turn-by-turn directions and just see how it works when, I mean, I don't anticipate it would have any problems, but I'm looking forward to testing that. Gavin, Braden, talk about Braden. Yeah, Gavin Bralden or Braden. Braden. Gavin Braden says my golden retriever should run and should retrieve, but does neither. That's funny. Recycle on Wednesday says I'm jealous of people with any kind of dog, but I would love to have a dog I could canny cross with. That looks fun. What is canny cross? Is that like a running and a dog running with dogs type of event? That sounds amazing. Yeah. Jacob Reese Montgomery says my dog could definitely be a running dog. Guy is off the walls. That's funny. David O'Reilly asks, are you still doing low heart rate training? I just started following you again. Hello from Ireland. I mean, yes, I am. I would consider that I am because for right now, I'm not training for anything. I'm not doing too much race specific work. And unless I'm doing like running up a big hill, which there's a lot of big hills in the area, I just kind of keep it at my low heart rate pace or lower. Although it's gotten to the point where what in my mind feels easy is what my heart is saying easy too. So now my low heart rate range and my easy pace mentally are in alignment. So I'm hardly even looking at the watch anymore, which is I think the optimal situation for me. And so I have been doing that, except when I'm going uphill where it takes a little bit more effort to get up the hill, or sometimes when the downhill, because if it's very steep, it's very uncomfortable to just like kind of jog down a very steep hill. So I just kind of go. But even then my heart rate doesn't get too much higher on the downhills. So I'll do that. And then for race specific training, I will do more of an 80-20 approach. Where the vast majority of my running is going to be at low heart rate range. All my recovery running is going to be at low heart rate range. And then I'll do intervals or speed work or tempo work at a very high level of intensity. So that's the idea there. So low heart rate range and then like around like the lactate threshold, a little bit above it and a little bit below, and a lot more below it, but kind of in that range for the high intensity. So that's where I'm at. Let's see. We got Stevie76 is blasting this live stream on the pool speakers, and the kids asked who was talking. He said, "That's your Uncle Kofuzi." I love that. I love that. Hey kids, don't get too crazy and rowdy in the pool. This is your Uncle Kofuzi saying, be safe, safety first. That's so funny. Um, we brought some speakers with us, like Bluetooth speakers and stuff with us, so we could play out in the yard and everything. But um, I've been a little bit self conscious about it because I'm fairly certain. Well, most of the neighbors seem to have boys that are nearby, and some of them are very close. And I feel like you could probably hear our music if we played it loud enough, even on like a little Bluetooth speaker. And this is a part of the state and the start part of the country where people really value kind of like their peace and quiet. And so I'm a little bit nervous about that. Plus, our taste in music is very different. Because my girls like the soundtrack to like Frozen and Descendants and Zombies, and I'm pretty sure that's not what like the neighbor boys are listening to. So that's been pretty funny. But the girls are always like, "Dad, make it louder. We're in our backyard. We can play." And I'm like, "No, no, no. We still got neighbors. Let's be respectful." um, Steve Arnberg said, "See the SJD video of his running Pikes Peak, 26 miles up and down. Crazy." Yeah, that man is a beast. I don't know how he does that. He is just a machine. Um, Alistair Sales agreeing with me. Same feeling with the AirPod Pros when he gets sweaty. Yeah, I think that's just all of the true wireless earbuds. Which, I mean, can we stop calling them true wireless earbuds? Can we just call them earbuds at this point? Like, do we have to even call them Bluetooth earbuds anymore? Can we just call them? Like, because I think we should just call the corded earbuds, and true wireless earbuds just earbuds. At least that's how I'm going to start doing it from now on. Innes Dunbar says he uses a Canicross set with Pip. We both have a harness on with a bungee cord between us. We did a race. It was great fun. A bit mad with all the other dogs. That sounds like amazing madness. That does sound like madness. And I want. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna start having to watch that. That looks amazing. That sounds amazing. Lucas says the Beacon 3 is out in Europe. Yeah, I saw someone on like New Balance UK, I think, show, because I think it must have been UK because it was in pounds, but showing that like on the New Balance site they could buy the Beacon 3, and then I looked for it on the US site and it's not there. So I'm very jealous. But are you planning to pick it up when it's available in the US? Absolutely. The Beacon has been one of my favorite shoes since the first, I mean, I guess since 2 years ago when it first came out. And last year, the only thing that I wanted out of the Beacon for the Beacon 2 was they changed as little as possible. And so I'm wanting also the same for the Beacon 3, that they just don't change it because it's a great shoe. I'm thinking, though, like if it ever gets to the point where they're going to change it a lot, I might have to hoard a couple pair. Because it just suits me very well, I think. Yeah, Jacob Reese Montgomery says, I find that basing my runs off a heart rate makes my runs extra slow. Yeah, I mean, I had that too in the beginning. I had a lot of run walking, and so it was very difficult. It just took a while, a very long while, for my like cardiovascular system to like catch up to my musculoskeletal system and my like pulmonary system. JC, ever had a cramping problem in a marathon? And if so, how did you handle it? I think that to the extent that I've had cramps in a marathon, it's more because, I've hit the wall and I've not hydrated properly. That's probably problem number one. For me, once I'm at that like cramping stage, there's not a lot left that I can do, I think. But the things that I try to make sure I do to prevent those kinds of cramping from happening is make sure I'm taking enough liquid along the way. I was watching a lot of marathon replays during like the initial stages of the lockdown and quarantine, and I just remember a lot of the commentators saying, "Oh, and look at that, he's missed his waddle at the first aid station, but that's okay. It's early on." And I just keep thinking now, I'm like, that's like one of the most important ones to get, because that one is the one that's going to like physiologically it's most relevant towards like mile like 20, is that like the maintenance hydration and maintenance nutrition you're doing in that first station. And so like that for me has been something that I've been trying to work on. Maybe it's something that I'm overemphasizing, but I just feel like it's really important to stay on top of like the hydration. Not necessarily so much the volume of liquid, but because like Gatorade and stuff like that has the electrolytes that you're going to need, sugars and salts and potassium, things like that. Um, let's see. Um, Lewis Morgan said he was meant to be coming to Chicago next month for rock and roll. Flight's canceled, but the race isn't. Are you doing it? I'm not in Chicago right now, so I'm not planning on going back for the rock and roll. I didn't know it wasn't canceled. That's going to be really surprising. I'll have to keep a closer eye on that. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Um, yeah, I'm not planning on doing it. The rock and roll half marathon in Chicago for me, I did the 5K, and that 5K, the last time I did it was a couple of years ago. That's my current 5K PR. But like I normally don't do the half marathon because it's the weather is always miserable for it. Last year it had like thunderstormed all morning, and then because I think I ran 15 or 17 miles that day. But I remember running along the lakefront and seeing a lot of the racers. But like that morning, like the humidity was off the charts because it had just finished a downpour, and so like it had this hot summer sun, and then all the rain was evaporating. It was miserable. Other years it was just plain hot, and yeah, it's the weather's usually pretty miserable. So I tend to avoid that one. Um, Stevie76 says the kids love the shout out from Uncle Kofuzi. Love it. Jody Run says the Beacon 3 midsole is the same as the 2, which I'm surprised. And Martha mentioned it too, that it's not surprising that it's not Fresh Foam X. But while I'm kind of like disappointed that it isn't Fresh Foam X, because I wanted to see what it would be like to put that in the Beacon, I'm also, again, because I like the shoe so much, very concerned that they're going to ruin it. And it's funny because the Beacon 3 midsole is the same as the 2. The 2 is the same as the 1. So it's basically the same midsole and a new upper for the last couple of years. But you know what? It isn't broken. So I'm glad they're not trying to fix it. Yeah, okay. Ben just said the Edbud has a video on the Beacon 3. And very similar to the version 1, which he wasn't expecting. Which Ben wasn't expecting. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I mean, part of me does wish there was like maybe there'll be a Beacon 3 like special edition, like a Beacon 3, not turbo, but something along those lines that has Fresh Foam X in it. But I don't, maybe not. All right, I think I'm gonna have to wrap it up. My computer is telling me that like my stream strength is not so great, so that's usually a good sign for me to let it go. And I don't know what's going on with the lighting, but it keeps like it's like pulsing. It goes from like I'm trying to like figure out where I can sit to make it so that way the lighting is a little bit more flattering. But like even when I find a spot, it's fine for a minute, and then see now it's fine, and then in like 5 seconds it's gonna get really dark. So still figuring it out. I'll never figure it out. I have a feeling it's gonna be like my approach to parenting, which is the moment you think you got things figured out with your kids, like they hit another phase in their development and growth, and so all the rules change again. So I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. Lolu712 says, hey Kofuzi, first time, long time. Any idea when you head back to Chicago? I don't know. So right now the courts are closed till July. And see, it's getting dark again. I think I moved though, did I? Anyway, the courts are closed till July, so I might have some work to do, but that I can push to my team. That's going to be like in the Chicago area. So I think the month of June, for the rest of this month, we'll be in Iowa. But we may be there longer than that. Even if the courts open up, I might be able to, like, work I think is going to open up so slowly for us that I could probably not have to be in Chicago for the rest of the summer. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'd like to be able to spend the rest of the summer in Iowa. Oh, it seems like a really long time, but I think at some point I'll need to have to go and like check on the office, check on. I mean, I don't have to do that, but I do. I will want to check on like the apartment just to make sure everything like like a pipe didn't burst or something. Although if it did, we live in a high rise, so like people would know. So I don't know. That's it's a good question, but right now there's daycares are starting to open up, or they've opened up, I think technically, but with lots of restrictions. And we didn't want to send our daughter to daycare under those conditions. And there's similar situation with summer camps. There might be summer camps, but we don't want to send either of our kids to summer camps given everything that's still potentially out there. So we're just gonna hang out and have like kind of try to have our best summer ever out here with grandma and grandpa. So that's what we're doing. Matt Legrand says, okay, the roads that you've been running remind me so much of the roads I run when visiting my wife's family in mid-Michigan. The dirt roads are nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, geographically, it's very similar to Michigan in terms of like the terrain in the Midwest. And the dirt roads are nice. Some of the road shoes that I have, like today I ran in the Fuel Cell Rebel. That shoe does not like it when there's like rocks on the road. I definitely feel a lot of it. But when I'm on when the rocks are very fine, or when I'm on just dirt road, it's really nice to have like that little extra bit of softness. So yeah, I think my body's definitely going to appreciate the dirt roads, and like it's just so quiet whenever I run. It's been I mean, I've run back here before, but it's a little bit different this time around. So definitely appreciating this change of scenery. All right, well, I think that's a good place to leave it for today. Thank you, everyone, for being patient with me in the beginning, trying to get this stream started up. It'll get better. It'll get better. I appreciate you hanging in with me. Thank you, everybody, for joining the Strava Run Club group. I'll be seeing you guys there. I'll be on YouTube tomorrow, and I'll be doing another live stream at 3. So hopefully you guys will want to join in again. And I hope you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.